The next chapter is eligibility and enrollment. This is a chapter that describes, first of all, who are the people who have to be included in your community for the purposes of voting and citizenship, and also deals with the process for getting people onto the list, ultimately for the purposes of voting at the time of the referendum, and also for participating in your community in the future. There are a couple of basic principles in the eligibility enrollment chapter. First, the chapter says anybody who is on your ban list today is entitled to be enrolled as a member. So nobody can lose the status that they have right now because they're a band member. Secondly, the agreement says that a person who has an ancestral connection to your community, has maintained a close connection to your community, and identifies as a member of your community is also eligible to be enrolled. This is designed to make sure that people who, for one reason or another, because of the effect of the Indian Act in the past, have been cut off from your community, aren't completely cut out of the future treaty if they've maintained a real connection to your community. On the other hand, it strikes a balance in making sure that there's not a lot of strangers brought into your community by insisting upon the fact that it's only people who've maintained a connection to your community who are entitled to be enrolled. The question of who has maintained a close connection is something that a committee appointed in your community, something called the Enrollment Committee, will determine. And there's a list of factors set out. And the factors are common sense factors, such as how many ancestors they have, how close the ancestors they have are, where they live, where they were born, what kind of participation they had in the community. They're really a list of common sense factors that are designed to make sure that people who have maintained a real connection to your community are included. And then all people who are descended from those two categories of people are entitled to be enrolled, so that in the future there's no cutoff because of issues around marrying in or marrying out. Your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on to the generations will be entitled to be included. The other thing that the treaty provides is that adoption does not cut anybody off from their rights if they're adopted out of the community, and likewise if they're adopted into the community and into a family, that they're treated just like ordinary natural children. So adopted children are given a very fair treatment and are treated in a way that makes sure that any kids who over the years may have been taken out of your community involuntarily are given a chance to enroll if they want to. There are also provisions in here to make sure that people don't sign up in two treaties at once, particularly two modern treaties. There's an exception in that for the Douglas treaties, because obviously many people in the communities have rights in multiple Douglas treaty groups. But if you belong to Treaty 8 or to the Nishka Agreement, if you want to enroll in one of your modern treaties, then you have to make a choice about which treaty you belong to. The remainder of the eligibility enrollment chapter describes the process for enrolling, and it involves the establishment of a committee in your community that will be in charge of running the enrollment process. There's various guarantees about that process being fair and open. And then if there's unhappiness about a result that comes out of that committee, there has to be an appeal board that will deal with appeals. And finally, anybody who feels that there's been an illegal act or some profound unfairness will have the right to actually go to the courts to deal with these matters.